So this is an update episode on the story that I did very recently about this young man, the video that came out, which I actually made a commentary about, actually even giving kind of like interpretation because he was speaking in Venda about what was happening in his church that was kind of pissing him off. Now, I spoke about the story and I said I didn't have full context, but when I do, I'll come back to it. And yes, we did get full context to it and we know what church it is, what happened. So this episode, I will have to break it up into two parts because now there is a situation which is heartbreaking. In Venda, we say, zwi a shonisa. Zitwao. The things that are happening over there, zwi shonisa. I am speechless. Tuna maipfi. Mafungo mapangapa. Such news. I'm going to be speaking and interpreting myself into the Amba and the Abba. I don't interpret. Preach it. Chitoriechi, this particular story, I have to be very clear. It's very shameful. Zishonisa, you would want to just hide your eyes. Matokule. I say matokule. Take your eyes far away. Those that didn't know I was Venda, where have you been? Hey. Ha! My people. So let me stop being shocked and give you the story. So the church in question, which we were talking about, which that man was calling out in that particular video that we did, the church in question is called United African Apostolic Church. Okay, so it's United African Apostolic Church. That's the church. Now, you may see that in the headline here, it says marriage drama. The story that man was pissed off by involves a breaking of a marriage. And zishonisa shoni. It's the Reality Show with the Daily Christian Commentary videos. If it's the first time over here, to be sure, check out the other videos that are down in the pinned comments. If it is your first time, I said, be sure to check out the other videos that are down in the pinned comments. I will come back to the story with the other side of the story because, woo, let me stop being shocked. We tulula this matter, we take this matter out. So the story comes from a church called the United African Apostolic Church. It is a very, very old church. It's not a new church. It's one of those churches from the 1910s and so forth. This particular church, that's why in that video you would have seen, I highlighted that he was wearing these gowns. I was not sure, is it Zioni or is it what? So that's the name of the church, United African Apostolic Church. It's an old church. They wear workers there. And so you can see, by the way, the people that I'm showing, I'm just showing the uniforms. I chose this particular picture because it shows you what the kids wear, what Abu Mama wear, and what the men over there wear. You know, is that aspect of the man being the holder, the provider, you can see. I don't know. Why did you choose this particular uniform? Workers! But yeah, so that's the church. I did see that they are a bit of a music church and all that kind of stuff. I know you hardly see Bibles there, but anyways, this is the church and so forth. I did see that also. There was at one point a visitor by Maumela. She was wearing the scarf. I don't know if she's a member or she was just wearing the scarf because the women in that church wear that. Also confusing was also this particular leopard skin thingy. I don't know if they are that traditional to a point where, you know, leopard skin, we know it's, you know, traditional African, but them having African in the name, I don't know. What's the viewpoint over there of doctrine? Okay, I don't know what the doctrine is over there. That will be a talk of another day. So the story that actually comes from this particular church, Bazalwane, as I mentioned, it's not a nice one. It involves the breakup of a marriage because leadership refused to correct a wrong. And they sided. So the video that we saw, it comes after this particular situation. Let me break it down. As I said, separate episode will be on that particular situation. So there is a couple that was bound to get married very recently. Then the lady involved in this particular marriage situation went out and got involved in doobie-doos, bedrooming matters, blanketations matters, sleeping, involved. Once people are sleeping and there's other people involved, it can get very dodgy. Yeah, things can come out there that just don't result into wholesome things. So she got involved in an affair with another person who is known in the church, who is a bit influential in the church, might also be well-pocketed, also might be. And just for clarity here on this video, we're going to be saying anybody's names. We're just going to be talking about the situation at hand. That's what led up to that story, is that this particular individual was not called out for getting themselves involved with this lady. On top of that, and bear in mind, towards her wedding. Now, when this story comes out, I've said Limpopo is an entire country by itself. Ne? Yeah, I see KZN News, we tend to all know them, they trend too much. KZN people are online all the time. So KZN News tend to trend everywhere, then we all know them. But Limpopo News, Bazaladi, Limpopo is like Ghana for me. Even me who's from Limpopo, mapungo ayani ashabisa, like the things that come from that side, scary things, things that you will hear, you think it's a movie, straight out. And so there's a lot that happens that side that you unless you are like in the news, in the same WhatsApp group and the same Facebook pages, you will never hear of them because they don't trend outside. There are people that are popular in Limpopo that are not popular anywhere else. Limpopo is an entire nation by itself. Okay? And so these stories, they tend to happen and they don't get covered that much. That's why you just not even hear stories. You won't hear it outside of this page. Where are you going to hear it? So this lady, this thing happens and it comes out that this lady, marriage broke off and she gave herself to this man who might have a committed relationship himself. And now she was supposed to have her own person. But that's not even it. People now call her out. People online and everywhere, they were calling her out for, how can you, the lady has 3 kids. You have 3 kids and you actually met someone that was willing to commit themselves to you, raise a family with you and all that entire conscience, and you were willing to give yourself up for a fling, bedroomizations of things, bedding issues. Huh? How you were willing to throw the carpet. Iviki yaphuma iviki. Wakhipha iviki usisi. And forgot long-term commitment for something overnight, which will bring no value to you. So people were giving a headache over that. The church decides to put a statement. And in this whole thing, they're rebuking people, to leave the lady. Let the lady be. The church does not correct the issue. Kind of like the situation that you see in 1 Corinthians chapter number 5, where a brotherhood in the church was involved in dubious behavior. And Paul calls out that brother. He says, he doesn't call out the brother, he calls out the church. Because Paul says, you should have judged this particular matter. He says, I've judged it in this particular matter. You should have cast this brother out from the congregation. You should have cut him off from the congregation before he brings a terrible name over your branch. Read 1 Corinthians chapter number 5 to see what I'm talking about. He says, cast him unto Satan for the destruction of the flesh, because it's a person without godly instruction. So since you have three kids, you found someone who's willing to commit to you, and you were not willing to go on with something that was long term like that. You gave up your marriage for that. People were giving it to her. The church decided to defend, give a statement. No, blocking and blockages. By the way, they say then I'm sorry to say it that way. Yeah, people, this particular matter, people sleeping around in this church, they say it's just too common. So it's no wonder, it's no surprise that such things happen. They allow it to break up a marriage. Bazalwane. Y'all are playing. And so people were giving it, the church decided to put a statement, and this is what led to that. You'll remember that in that video, he mentions something. He mentions that it has gone so far that people were actually posting corn. Yes. People not wearing, doing things, bedroomings and what, in Filth. Yeah. He said in that video that such things would be posted. It turns out to a point where people were so people had gotten so used to filth that things that are unholy were being posted, WhatsApp groups and so forth, for church members and everyone. So the brother said, amanyala nwenzayo lana. We will not allow it to become the norm. And so this is the story that you saw over there. Now the situation at hand that I'm talking about, I'm going to come with. Okay? I'll come back here with. Here, I wanted to highlight the situation that, Azalan, how do you accept? How do you allow yourself to be so entangled into filth to that level? Now, I want to also call people that like to say, isonto ligcwele amanyala. Amanyala in politics, what, you name it. The church's mission is to bring salvation to the people, not destruction. People tend to allow such things because they themselves, they don't have clarity. When you lose ground, when you no longer have ground. Have you seen what happens to a house in an area where there is like the land is moving under, like maybe there's water that's sweeping away land near a river away from a house. When the house loses ground, it's not the whole house that collapses. It starts by the wall that's most compromised. The structure gives, and it gives to whatever. That's where you might find yourself. There are things that we should not allow. Things of the flesh, they take over. Yeah. So if you are taken into like things that involve sleeping around and stuff like that, it takes over that thing. And when we speak like this, the way your heart is turned to wickedness, you are not repentant. No. The way umosheke ngakhona, you become the way you are too invested into your behaviors and whatever field you are involved in. See, you don't come to repentance when we call you out. You actually siyakwatisa. Why? Because you see, you can't have, like a child being given a sweet, and then you want to take away the sweet from the child. They throw a tent. Why? Because you are taking away the thing that they've highly. That's what it's like when a person is overly invested themselves into such behavior. This thing of chasing around skirts, ladies chasing around pants, all these things. You see these things, it will take over. It will take you over. That's why you see person is in this relationship, they jump there in that relationship. Their relationships don't build towards something. It's always just why? Because the things of the flesh take over. That's why he doesn't say you pray about things of the flesh. He says you flee. Amanyala, amanyala. You get too used. And when you are in such an environment, because it endorses what you are into. When we call you out, so manje, if ukwatile manje, your heart is now wicked. I want you to hear me very well. Bazalan, there is a tendency of not understanding the state of the heart. You see, you want to determine whether you care for the things of God. Look at what happens when you are in error and people call you out. You've lost ground. You should remember the house that I was talking about. You've lost ground. You are tipped. You're about to fall. We've talked about stories where people were literally at a point or at a brink point of tipping over. At that particular position where they were, because they could not be corrected. When a person lacks correction, it doesn't matter how old you be 80, 90, doesn't matter. You lack correction. Error thrives. So I gave you a one sign to know whether you are still in the clear. If if I am saying that there is filth in your church, there is wrong in your church, this particular behavior, people can know this thing, and they themselves are partaking in it. A person gets angry, knowing very well that what's being said is true. I'm telling you a sign of whether you are in the clear. You are okay. What is that thing that I'm giving? It's because your heart is filthy. You don't have a pure heart. Yeah, there is people who are believers who don't have pure heart. You don't know. Read the Bible, you'll see. When you read the parables, you see the parable of a wicked servant. You can be a person who serves God and be wicked. Because now you've turned the service. It has become about yourself. There's such a thing. So people look at themselves, they keep looking at their worth and all those things. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the state of your heart. Emoyeni umuntu onjani?